Hi guys, so I'm going to show you how I made this cool crochet bolero, I think you call them, or like sleeves, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, or shrug maybe, I don't know. But yeah, here's how I made it. I first of all started by measuring the wingspan of a jumper that fit me well. So I just measured the sleeves. That came to be 58 inches. So I then made a slip knot and inserted my hook, and then I made a foundation chain of single crochets that was 58 inches long, the same length as the wingspan of the jumper. So once the single crochet chain was 58 inches long, I then double crocheted into each stitch along the single crochet chain. So to double crochet, I just wrapped my yarn around the hook and then inserted it into the stitch, then pulled the yarn through, and then pulled the first two loops, and then pulled the second three loops through. And I just repeated that the whole way along. And once I'd finished the first row of double crochets, I then did a single crochet stitch, and then I just double crocheted back into each stitch along the row. I then continued and did double crochets into each stitch for a third row. then continued to double crochet for another 28 rows. So when the width had reached 8 inches, I then measured 10 inches from the bottom of the sleeve and I put a stitch marker in to remind me where the 10 inches was. I then began crocheting the two sides together. So I changed into a smaller hook, and that was 4mm, and then I just inserted the hook into the two loops, so the first stitch of the bottom and then into the first stitch of the other side, and then I just pulled the yarn over the hook and then pulled through completely to do a slip stitch. I then inserted my hook into the second stitch of one side and then the second stitch of the other side, and then I just pulled the yarn through to again create slip stitch, and then I just continued to do that the whole way up, so third stitch and so on. And then I just kept on doing that until I stopped when I reached the 10 inches stitch marker. So once I'd reached the stitch marker, I then just cut the wool and then knotted it. And then I just took the stitch marker out. I then did the exact same thing on the other side. So I just measured 10 inches and then put a stitch marker, and then I began crocheting the other side together. So again, I just made a slip knot, and then I just placed my hook into the first stitch of one side and then the first stitch of the other side, and then I just pulled the yarn through to make a slip stitch, and I did that all the way up until I reached the stitch marker. Once I reached the 10-inch stitch marker, I then again just cut the wool and pulled a knot, and then I took the stitch marker out. I then made a slip knot and then inserted my hook, and then I started double crocheting into each stitch along the whole way around. When I got to the other side, I then inserted my hook into one stitch, and then I skipped a stitch in the middle and then inserted it into the next stitch, and then I just did a normal double crochet, and then I just continued to double crochet the whole way along the row again and into each stitch. So when I got to the other side, so I done a full round of double crochets, I began by triple crocheting into each stitch around the whole way of the sleeve. So to triple crochet, you just wrap your yarn around the hook twice and then insert it into the stitch, then pull through the first two loops and pull through the next two loops, and then again pull through the last two loops. And then I just continue to do that into every stitch along the row. then when I again got to the end of the row, I just inserted my hook into the 2 loops of one end and then skipped 1 stitch and then inserted my hook into the next stitch and then pulled the yarn through and then pulled all the way through just to make a slip stitch, and that is just to stitch the 2 sides together. And then I just again began triple crocheting all the way along the row. I then measured how long I wanted the sleeves to be on each side, and that was 17 inches. And then I measured it up against the crochet sleeve, and then I just inserted a stitch marker where it was 17 inches. And then I just continued to triple crochet into each stitch, and I did that for another 2 rows. And at the end of each row, I would insert my hook into 1 stitch and then skip the next stitch and then insert my hook into the next stitch and then pull through to make a slip stitch. So I'm again stitching 2 stitches together. And I finished triple crocheting when the middle part section reached a width of 11 inches because I measured the width I wanted the shoulder part to be, and it was about 11 because it was 6.5 times 2. And yeah, so I just stopped when the width reached that size. I then got my smaller hook, so my 4mm hook, and then I began just crocheting the 2 sides together using a slip stitch, and I only crocheted the back loops together. So to do this, I just inserted my hook into the back lip of the first stitch on one side and then the back lip of the first stitch on the other side, and then so I had 3 loops on the hook. Then I pulled the yarn through the 3 loops on the hook to create a slip stitch. And so I just continued to do that, so inserting my hook into the back loops and then pulling the yarn through like so. And yeah, I just continued to do that until I reached the stitch marker I'd placed on the sleeve earlier to the 17 inches. when I reached the stitch marker, I then just removed the stitch marker because it was kind of in the way, and then I just finished the last stitch. And once I'd finished that, I just cut the wool and then made a knot to keep it in place, like so. I then just did the exact same process on the other side to create the other sleeve. So I just measured 17 inches and placed a stitch marker in. And then I began by crocheting the sides together using a slip stitch and only crocheting in the back loops. And then again, when I reached the stitch marker, I just took it out and then did the last stitch. Also, if you don't have a stitch marker, you can always just use a hair clip or something, or even like a paper clip or something, whatever. And then once I'd done that, I just cut the wool again and then tied a knot. And then I just began by weaving in the ends, because there's a lot of ends on this project. So I just weave them all in so you can see them. And this was the final result. I really like it, and I think the color was really nice that I chose. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.